Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jenny Taylor. I'm a program director with Lloyd. And before we officially get things underway here, I just have a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, you should have been notified when you signed on, but today's meeting is being recorded and will be posted online for public viewing, so keep that in mind. Second, feel free to use the chat function during the meeting if you have questions or want to leave a comment. We can't promise we'll be able to respond in real time, but we will definitely follow up with you. And then finally, we have a quick about 5-minute survey that we'd like you to take following the event, and we will drop the link into the chat as we get a little closer to the end, and we'll be sure to let you know when we do that. And with that, I will turn it over to Hank Ashforth to get us underway.
There we are. Unmute myself. I should be used to that by now, for sure. But hello, everyone. I am Hank Ashforth. I am chair of the Lloyd Enhanced Services District, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 2022 annual meeting of the Lloyd Enhanced Services District and the Lloyd Open House. We certainly appreciate you joining us today, albeit virtually, and sincerely hope that next year we'll be able to talk to you face to face. So my job today really is to briefly update you on all things Lloyd ESD, give you an idea where we stand financially, and most important, really introduce the Lloyd ESD program verticals, as I call them. And the bulk of the time today should really go to defining and telling you about those programs, because the programs are really the ones that get it done for this neighborhood. So after my introduction, each head of the programs will report to you on their programs and how they did the past year. So let's get started. I don't think I need to tell anyone that 2021 was a unique and challenging year. The pandemic accelerated many trends, some positive, some negative, that were there, maybe already present or just lying there under the surface. These trends and COVID itself affected us all, some deeply. Some in positive ways as well, but most in the negative when I look at it on a neighborhood scale. Portland and this neighborhood were certainly included on the negative side of the ledger. We all experienced fear and frustration with the accumulating litter and graffiti and the escalation of violent crime in our city. These are substantial things that threaten Portland's prized attribute of livability. So in preparation for today, I wanted to see if I could just grab and come up with one statistic to leave you all with that kind of defined the problems where Portland went vis-a-vis the pandemic. And I came across a fact from the Urban Land Institute, ULI, which is the global real estate organization. And each year ULI publishes a survey they call their Emerging Trends Survey, and it surveys some 80 cities across the US. 4 years ago, a short 4 years ago, Portland was ranked number 3. And actually for many years previous had really held down a position in inside the top 15. Last year's survey from ULI placed Portland at number 66. Indeed, we've got a long way to go to restart Portland, but to my feeling, it starts right here in Lloyd with you all, because quite honestly, there are some good things happening. We do have some tenants that are moving in. The trash and the graffiti are certainly being taken care of by the city and by volunteers like you. And on a major scale, Lloyd Center is under new ownership, and we couldn't be more excited about what redevelopment may certainly happen to that linchpin asset in our neighborhood. And as you all know, we're currently hosting the NCAA March Madness tournament right there in the neighborhood in the Rose Quarter. So we hope that things like that can certainly kickstart the economic engine that is Lloyd and the city of Portland. So, and with the challenging year aside, I thought I might go in to describe really the Lloyd Enhanced Services District in a little more detail. And simply our mission is to build community and political support and be an innovative and catalytic driver for Lloyd. And we do that by engaging in building diverse neighborhood partnerships, facilitating investment in Lloyd, and being a champion for Lloyd. And as many of you know, we were recognized with the Spirit of Portland Award a few years ago for our work done with Right to Dream 2 and the rest area that is here in Lloyd. And with that, I'd like to welcome certainly any of the Right to Dream 2 occupants here today. So certainly welcome you all. So in the next slide, I'll give you again to describe further what the ESD is. We're in our 21st year of service, starting way back in 2001. There are 125 properties that are in the district, and 99% of those properties comply with the annual assessment. And that assessment generates actually over $500,000 annually. And through those investments, we've given back 6.8 million has been reinvested in this neighborhood since 2001. And we couldn't do this actually without our public sector partners, those at Metro and the Oregon Convention Center and TriMet and Prosper Portland, the city of Portland, and obviously Bonneville Power as well. So with that, I'd like to continue, give a brief financial report on where the ESD stands currently. Right now, we have $670,000 in cash. But if we take our mandatory 4-month operating reserve away from that, there's about $470,000 of usable funds available. The 2022 budget of revenue and expenses are roughly $527,000 in revenue and $570,000 in budgeted expenses for the year, leaving an overspend of about $43,000. And I'd like to let you know now that your board really truly is working hard on using the budgeted funds for the security and cleaning of a program that was affected by the ending of the DA community policing program. And I'll have a little bit more to say about that coming up. So the board is extremely aware of the effects of the pandemic and that it has had on Lloyd and the city, and we are budgeting accordingly. It looks like we're out of the woods, but I'm not ready to say that we're standing in green fields yet. So we will continue to remain conservative with the use of your money. So how is that money spent each year? If we go to the next slide, we'll show you here the org chart on really how the ESD is laid out. And the 4 verticals program verticals I spoke about are here in blue. And a very brief description, you'll get a lot more detail later in the presentation. Go Lloyd is all things transportation and has been since actually before the ESD was created. And in this coming year, I couldn't think of a more important program for the city and certainly Lloyd, in that their relationship with the mass transit, is going to be even more important with gas prices the way they are right now. I will come back to public cleaning and safety in a moment, but the Lloyd Community Association is what I really call the glue of this neighborhood, as they work with their efforts to engage residents and small businesses in bringing the community together. And the ESD is actually partnering with them and the Portland Street Art Alliance on a public art project that is really ready to kick off next month. We couldn't be more excited about that. And the Lloyd EcoDistrict, as well, as they strive to bring sustainability practices to the residents and businesses inside Lloyd. You'll get a description about how their planned community-funded redesign of the Peace Memorial Park. So to spend maybe a little more time on the public cleaning and safety vertical, as I mentioned, the ESD's partnership with Multnomah County DA's office ended in 2020. That neighborhood DA program that we invented with them lasted some 20 years and was for a time a national model for community policing. Unfortunately, and through direct communication with the Multnomah County Chair and her DA, we found that really they don't believe in the importance of maintaining a strong community policing program anymore. It's unfortunate. But however, in the same breath, I would like to say we continue to communicate with the Portland Police Bureau, and we thank them for their dedicated service. So at the end, if you remember, at the end of last year's open house, we asked you, our members, for input on how we should reallocate the DA, neighborhood DA program funds. And by far and away, the highest priority that came through the survey was to clean up our streets. So with that, I'm delighted to announce that we have partnered with the nonprofit organization Trash for Peace and Ground Score Association to begin regular weekly trash pickups in Lloyd. Through their Glitter program, which is a peer-led initiative to create low barrier waste management jobs and prioritize work opportunities for those facing housing insecurity. And those jobs actually will be filled by those that are unfortunate here and living in Lloyd. So couldn't be more excited about that. And I think we do have a video that we'd like to share with you about this Trash for Peace program.
All right, tell me your name and tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me about what you do at Ground Score.
Okay, well, I go by Mo.
My name is Latrice Holloway.
My name is Chris.
My name is Arthur, and I work at the People's Depot for Ground Score.
A canner is someone who turns in cans of aluminum cans and bottles for money. That's where the basis of Ground Score kind of started, is from that wanting to have a little bit of dignity back in the kind of work that we do.
The toughest thing about being on the streets is having purpose. Once you're on the streets, your motivation kind of goes away. A lot of us feel like we're useless or like we don't matter. And having places like Ground Score and the People's Depot, it allows the quiet types to find a sense of purpose.
They don't require no work references or anything. All they just require is that you show up for work. We help people cash in their cans and they make money and we make money at the same time. It's more than a job, it's like a community resource. It's a way to work and give back at the same time. That's what the People's Depot is.
This is the perfect place for canners to grow, to be successful. I mean, I don't see nobody else doing it. Ground Score.
The Glitter Project is a peer-led tent-side trash service for folks that are living outside. We provide weekly trash service for several areas in the city, and plus we clean up the public access ways like sidewalks and areas around camps.
In my experience of being out there is it's very hard to find places to throw away your trash. That's where I've been able to actually physically work and develop relationships with the people that I work with. And I feel like I'm getting paid for something very good for the community. And it seems to be just generally uplifting the spirits of everybody who's outside. We're able to put our life force into something that's good for everybody.
Working for Ground Score on the People's Depot, I have learned that I am more responsible than I thought I was. I'm willing to set more goals for myself. I want to achieve more, simply just from working a job like this.
I consider it more than a job. I can kind of consider it a way of life.
It's a program where people can see that there is room to grow and that I can do something that I love doing. And despite that, whatever happens in the world, we have a program that supports us, that believes in us, that helps us. And in itself, that's just, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
This is the last slide that I've got to share with you, and it really describes how we're working with the community and within the community. And now more than ever, it's about communication and coordination with our public-private partners. It's critical to the success of our neighborhood in Portland, for sure. So what we're really engaged in are two important outreach efforts. One takes place in a weekly call with the mayor's office and the mayor's office team that are problem solvers and as members of the neighborhood communicate again each week on problems that exist within Lloyd, be it trash is here or a problem there, or homeless camp here, which really shouldn't be there, or what have you. So these issues are identified and dealt with the mayor's office, and over the 20 plus years we have been in existence, I've never seen more coordination and communication with city officials. So couldn't be more excited about this regular program. And then in addition, as you may know, there are two other ESDs in the city, and regular, again, meetings with them and communication and coordination is essential on more of a macro look at the central city. The Central East Side Together ESD and Downtown Clean and Safe we are now partnered with and communicate on a regular basis, which going forward, I think spells only good things for Lloyd. And then we're engaging with you, the business associations, the community groups and volunteers. And I'm going to thank you now for what you have done. And I'm also going to thank you for what you're going to do when we call you, because we need help with a particular issue, be it a cleaning issue or a graffiti issue, or just to ask you to simply donate resources or supplies to those more needy within the neighborhood, because it's all about working together. And when we work together, we can all be part of the solution. So those are my brief comments. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mick O'Connell, who is chair of the Go Lloyd board, and he'll enlighten you on what Go Lloyd has been up to.
Thanks very much, Hank. Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. I'm Mick O'Connell. I'm the chair, as Hank said, I'm the chair of the Go Lloyd Board of Directors. This year marks our 28th year as an organization and our 25th in providing on-ground services to the Lloyd neighborhood. Also, as Hank alluded to, last year continued to keep our offices, our shops, our bars and restaurants, our trains and buses empty. We're all hoping that 2022 is the year in which we return to some sense of normalcy and really get to enjoy each other's company again. Despite all of those challenges, however, our extraordinary staff here have accomplished an awful lot. I really do want to say a big thank you to Amber, to Jenny, to Michael, to Ophelia and Owen for all that you do for this organization. As a result of your tireless work in promoting transportation options, there's over 1,000 fewer cars on our streets each day under normal commuting conditions. And that is enough to more than fill two smart park garages. So that's quite an accomplishment. In 2020, we expanded our public trash can program with the addition of 20 new cans. And last year we installed an additional 12 cans in the neighborhood. And for that expansion, we continued our successful partnership with Benson High School, employing senior students from their digital media arts program to produce original art for the cans. This is it's a wonderful partnership that creates a unique street environment for the Lloyd neighborhood. The program has been so successful and so well received that Bureau of Environmental Services, which oversees and maintains the cans, is continuing to work with Benson's digital media arts program. So we are thrilled to be and have been part of this program. The Go Lloyd transportation store closed to in-person visits in March of 2020, 2 years ago, but remained open for online and telephone transactions. And last year, we reopened it 1 day a week and were available by appointment at other times. Beginning next month, store is going to be open 4 days a week with regular hours, and we'll continue to take appointments at other times. And this year, we're going to have some expanded services, such as offering verification for TriMet's reduced fare programs. And later in the year, we'll begin offering transportation wallets to low-income residents in Lloyd. And Owen will have a bit more information on that new program a little later in the presentation. We are always available to help residents and employees with personalized commute plans and other resources. As many of us transition back to our workplaces, Go Lloyd wants to ensure that everyone has access to the transportation options that work best for them. On bike infrastructure, 2 summers ago, Go Lloyd supported the work of the Human Access Project to create a public swimming location on the Willamette at the Duckworth Dock. We funded the purchase of 8 swim ladders, and last year we helped to add 20 bike parking spaces there. And Keith Jones is going to come on a little later and is going to tell you a lot more about that really super facility. Go Lloyd continues to work with property managers to site, design, and fund bike parking facilities throughout Lloyd, all with the goal of making this neighborhood as accessible as possible. If any of you are interested in adding bike parking to your location, please get in touch with our staff. The Blumenauer Bridge, or as I like to call it, the Earl, is nearing completion. This major piece of new infrastructure is the culmination of a 30-year vision to strengthen the physical connections between Lloyd and Central Eastside. As many of you know, Go Lloyd has contributed funds to the project. And in addition to our financial contribution, we are funding a pedestrian and bicycle counter, similar to the one that's on the Tillicum crossing. And this will be installed on the plaza at the bridge's northern landing. I'm now going to turn it over to the bridge's project manager, Dan Layden, to share some really, really great stuff about this project. Dan.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody. I'm Dan Layton. I'm the project manager for the city of Portland for this project. Thought I'd give you a little update on the project and show you some slides. And I do want to start by thanking Lloyd and Central Eastside Industrial Council and Prosper Portland, the major partners in this project. So show you a few slides of the construction and then talk about kind of where we're at and what where we'll be in a few months. We can move to the next slide. This is just kind of the overview slide that we've had. You've probably seen this for a number of years now. As the vision has been taking shape, and as if you drive the freeway or ride down Lloyd Boulevard, you certainly can see that things are really taking shape. The reason I want to show this picture is just to give a little bit of a sense of the design of the bridge, because it is a very unique structure. This was a very challenging project to design and build because it's almost a 400-foot span between the south side of the freeway and where it lands on the north side in the Lloyd area. And that, of course, is because it spans the freeway and the railroad tracks, and it had to clear span that whole area. So the design is what's called an arch span design, or a tied arch design. And the main structural component is really that arch that you can see crossing the freeway. And we'll talk more about the installation of that, which of course was quite dramatic last fall. You can move to the next slide. Just a few, basic elements of the project, just so folks, it's been a while since I've come to chat because of COVID and other things. It's a 24-foot wide bridge, providing both room for bicycles and pedestrians. The bridge will be sort of separated, although kind of softly separated, between 14 foot for bicycles and 10 feet for pedestrians. And unlike the Flanders Street crossing, where it sort of mirrors a street, the design of this bridge is that the bikes are on the east side and the pedestrians are on the west side. The reason we did that is because, as you'll see later in the show, it has really dramatic views of downtown from the west side. And we didn't want people walking across the bicyclists to go to that side. So that's the design that we've come up with. It's also usable for emergency vehicles, really only in the case of a significant structural or seismic event. This bridge has been designed to meet the latest seismic standards, which most of the bridges crossing I-84 have not, because they're much older. So this bridge should stay up in any sort of significant earthquake and be able to be used for emergency vehicle access. It's pretty steep. It's an average grade of about 4.1%. The north side is much higher elevation than the south side. So just be aware of that. We also have plazas on both sides, the north and the south side. And then we also did some stormwater improvements in the Central East side. So now some pictures. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is what the Sullivan's Gulch looked like probably in the 1930s. You can see the railroad is there. A lot of it was actually a golf course, just sort of interesting. You can move on to the next slide. So actually, interestingly enough, one of the things that most people don't realize about a bridge, also true of a building, is that a lot of the infrastructure is actually not visible. And you could probably see that over the course of the construction of this bridge. We started by digging a really, really big hole to put in the foundation. So this is the excavation as it's proceeding on the north side. We dug a hole of about 30 feet and dug out part of the bank in order to be able to widen the area there to found the bridge. You can go to the next slide. Just a little more detail of what that looked like. There was a series, the pour was a series of pours with some concrete in between. I just thought it's interesting to kind of see. And the other thing you can see here is how close we were working to the railroad for a large part of this project, which is always a challenge. You can go to the next slide. I do have to thank Trey Senator, who is the inspector on the project for the city of Portland and is also a great photographer. He took all of these pictures. So They're not my pictures, they're his, but I think you'll see some dramatic shots. Another shot, this is taken from the east side or from the south side looking to the north. And you can see they're starting to dig further down and have started to build the wall that's that you can see today. You can go to the next slide. Just another shot, you can see the wall is now built and they brought the crane in. They're beginning to do, you can sort of see the beginnings of the pilings. They drove several pilings on both sides, up to 45 feet deep, so they're pretty deep in order to make the bridge sound from a seismic perspective and from a structural perspective. The pilings are pretty deep, and you can also see the bridge starting to take place on the other side, on the south side over there. You can go to the next slide, Ellen. I like this slide just because it kind of shows that construction, when you see it from a distance, it looks kind of clean, but it's a dirty business. These guys get muddy, and so this is actually drilling the shafts on the north side. Next slide. And here you can see the bridge is, the foundation is really starting to take shape. This again is taken from the east side. So you can, this is sort of towards the end of our construction before the bridge was put in place. In the next slide. So the bridge was actually fabricated in Vancouver at Thompson Metal Fab, and then brought in pieces to the site. So this is the beginning of the reinstallation or putting together the bridge, welding the bridge together. This was done on 7th Avenue on the south side of the freeway. And the next slide. So now the bridge is pretty well put together. It's ready for its dramatic lift across the freeway, which obviously was one of the major challenges of this project. I think for the first time, at least that ODOT has recollection, closed Interstate 84 in both directions. It's been closed several times in one direction, but both directions was a big lift. And I have to really thank ODOT. They were incredibly cooperative in the process of being able to do that. There was just no other way to build the bridge. You can go to the next slide. So this is the weekend where the closure happened in October of last year. The arrival of one of these 5 large cranes that were used for the installation of the bridge across the freeway. And the next slide. They're starting to, in this slide, the freeway is obviously closed, and they're building what's called the gantry crane. This was a crane that maybe some of you were there. Basically, what it did is it held the bridge up in place once it was placed onto it, and then it was moved across to the other side, and we'll show a video of that in a few minutes. So here's from the south side, from the north side, you can see the rigging of the cranes are in place, and we're just about ready for the launch of the bridge. You can go to the next slide. Again, now they're all rigged up. Everything's pretty well ready to go. And actually, the Congressman Blumenauer was present for a significant part of the launch. It was a fairly long day, but he was there for part of the launch. The next slide. I just like this slide because it shows the beautiful sunset. So it took most of the day to rig up the riggings for the cranes, and then they were able to begin the launch just about dusk, which unfortunately meant we weren't able to fly the drone that we had because you can't fly it after dark. And I think now we have a little video. Hopefully this one will work. So this is, I think yeah, there you go. So you can see it's been put in place. They're just about to put it onto the gantry crane. And that's coming into place right now. And then there it is being And this is sort of faked together through a variety of different pictures since we didn't have a drone. But you can see it moving across. Oh, and there it is. You got a little bit cut off, but that's fine. So then you can move back to the slides. So there, this is the picture of the the end of the bridge is now in the place where it is permanently in place. And you can see those temporary towers that we put up. They're of course gone now. They've been taken out of the area, but the bridge sat on those temporary towers for a while we built the next piece of the bridge. And I think if you move to the next slide, you can see that. I think, yeah, so this is still during the closure. You can see that from a little more distance, everything is in place now. The temporary tower is there, and they're starting to remove the cranes for this was on Sunday morning of the lift. And then the next slide, and there you can see now they're putting in the last pieces, which was actually also pretty dramatic. It took place fairly early in the morning, putting in those last pieces of the arch. As I mentioned earlier, the arch is really the strength of the bridge. The deck itself is tied to the bridge, which is why it's called a tied arch bridge. But the real structural strength is the bridge. I think I have a couple more. There it is from a distance now. This is actually taken from the 12th Avenue overpass. And you can see they're just about to build the last part of the deck, and the arch is in place. And I did notice somebody said you get a sense of the scale. The scale is quite impressive. That arch pipe is actually 36 inches wide. So when you get, and I think at least some of you will have an opportunity to do that fairly soon, and all of you will have an opportunity to do that not too long from now. You can really get the sense of the scale and the size of the bridge itself. I think we have one more picture. Ah, yes, we do. This is the view that you'll get from the bridge with yours truly I think it was late last fall. There will be screening on the bridge. So there will be, screening to make sure that folks don't throw stuff over the bridge or whatever else, but there still will be a pretty amazing view of downtown. And that's all I have. I'll try to answer. Do you have any questions? Oh, I have one more, and that is we are scheduled to open late summer. We're saying, I think it's likely to be early to mid-August, but sometime late summer should be the opening. We're still working out a few details, but things are moving ahead very well at this point. And I'd be happy to answer questions in the chat. I know we're going to move on, but feel free to leave me questions and I'll try to answer those before the meeting's over.
Great, thanks, Dan. That's it's really awesome to see this project come together, and really dramatic photos. Thanks for sharing that with us today.
Sure.
I'm Owen Ron Kelly. I'm Executive Director of Go Lloyd, and I'm pleased that you could be here with us on St. Patrick's Day to find out what's going on in Lloyd. We're very grateful for our role in shaping parking policy and guiding transportation investments in Lloyd, including the previously mentioned Blumenauer Bridge, the new bike infrastructure, and the public garbage cans that are located throughout Lloyd. Additional funding has gone to pay for streetcar vehicles and real-time transit tracker displays at bus stops and MAX platforms, as well as in building lobbies and tenant lobbies as well. By city rule, 51% of the net revenue from the Lloyd parking meter district gets reinvested in the neighborhood, and the meter revenue allocation committee distributes those funds to projects that improve and enhance the transportation system, and by extension, the neighborhood as a whole. Over the years, we've reinvested nearly $2 million in Lloyd, and while revenues have decreased due to the pandemic, through some austere budgeting, we've been able to continue to strategically invest those funds into priority projects for the neighborhood. Not everything has been at a standstill during COVID. For some time now, we've been looking at creating an event parking district around our major venues here in Lloyd, including Moda Center, Veterans Memorial Coliseum, and the Oregon Convention Center. The goal is to encourage people to consider options other than driving when they attend one of the many major events our neighborhood hosts throughout the year. Managing parking during events will also help lower traffic congestion and reduce the number of people circling the block looking for parking. Go Lloyd worked with PBOT to collect and measure parking data in a large swath around Rose Quarter and the Convention Center, examining parking behavior on a typical non-event day as kind of our baseline, and a weekday event, evening event at MODA, and a weekend event that would happen during the day at the Convention Center. There will be increased meter rates and extended enforcement hours for the events that have a combined attendance for more than 10,000 people. It's estimated that there are approximately 90 affected days per year. To better accommodate visitor trips that come by vehicle, some parking spaces located near the venues are going to be reassigned with longer term time restrictions. So moving from like a 2-hour meter to a 5-hour meter. All the residents will be able to opt in to get on a no citation list with parking enforcement for the first year. And one of the outcomes of this project that I'm most pleased with is the ability to offer transportation wallets to low-income residents at Go Lloyd's transportation store. Residents will be able to receive a hop card and a prepaid Visa with credits towards streetcar, TriMet, Bike Town, and potentially even some on-street parking. People have asked me, why have you stuck around Lloyd so long? Have you considered moving on? Of course, I've thought about it, but the thing that keeps bringing me back and makes me excited about the work that we do is the dedicated group of people that we work for, the Go Lloyd Board of Directors. Without their dedication and leadership and their passion for what goes on here, I might feel differently, but would have been gone long ago. I'm always amazed and gratified by the individuals that support our mission in helping make Lloyd such a success. Briefly, we've had 2 longtime board members recently retire from their jobs. But as an example of the commitment exhibited by most of our board, they have agreed to continue on with their role on the board for now, or at least as long as I can keep them around anyway. As you've already heard this afternoon, communication and coordination with our community partners is essential to the long-term vitality of Lloyd and Portland at large. We're diligently working with our public partners to support and maintain our transportation infrastructure, making it safe, inviting, and inclusive as possible for everyone coming to Lloyd. As more people begin to head back to work, it will be our task to get them to rethink how they get there and encourage them to form new habits that are better for their health and better for their pocketbooks. The road back may take some time, but with some patience and perseverance, we can make Lloyd and the Central City extraordinary. And now I'm going to turn it over to Marta Hansen to talk about what Lloyd EcoDistrict has been working on.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Owen. And thank you to everyone who's presented so far. It's so fun to hear everything that's going on in the neighborhood. Hi, everyone. My name is Marta Hansen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the interim executive director of Lloyd EcoDistrict. I'll share a little bit about who we are and how we got here, the program areas and current initiatives, as well as ways that you can get involved. Next slide, please. So what is Lloyd EcoDistrict? I've got a vision statement up on the slide for you here, but I'm going to pull out a couple of key words and phrases to highlight. So first of all, a living laboratory for sustainability. We are committed to building a more sustainable and climate prepared future here in Lloyd. We are collaborators, we are conveners, and we work really locally. We also have social and environmental health in here. We started off really with a focus on business and corporate sustainability, and in the last number of years have also kind of expanded our definition of what social and environmental health have looked like, with an increased focus on equity as well. And then we educate, we set goals, aggregate resources, and catalyze action. You will hear more about all of that throughout my short presentation. But just before we dive into that, I'll say our program work falls under 3 distinct areas. So pollinator placemaking is really about making Lloyd better by developing a sense of place here and beautifying the neighborhood. Residential resilience is focused really on making Lloyd better by developing resilience and building community among neighbors. And then a path to decarbonization is really about making Lloyd better by focusing on energy efficiency and waste. And we work super collaboratively with all of the partners that you've heard on the call so far across all those areas. So super brief history, next slide, please. We started off about a decade ago. A handful of Lloyd business leaders, property owners, city officials, and other stakeholders wanted to come together to form a green district. So Lloyd EcoDistrict was born. We started being funded by the Enhanced Services District in 2014. And had also shifted from a 501c6 business organization to a 501c3 nonprofit during that window. Next slide, please. I'll just highlight a couple of the programs on here that you won't hear more about later. So in the 2014 to 2017 window, we helped coordinate the opening of Hasselo on 8th, did a number of intersection repair and murals with city repair, worked on a waste reduction action plan, and were significant partners in the development of Right to Dream 2, which is the houseless rest area across the street from the Moda Center. Next slide, please. In the last couple of years, we have continued our listening and visioning sessions, raised $30,000 for Right to Dream 2, worked on the Peace Memorial Park redesign and the Keaton Otis Memorial Project, and EcoDistrict certification, which you will hear a little bit more about in a few minutes. So that's kind of been the last 10 years in a nutshell. So next slide, a little bit more in terms of the current snapshot of what our work has looked like really in the last year. I'll go through based on those 3 program areas that I mentioned. So first and foremost, under pollinator placemaking, which is really, again, about developing that sense of place and beautifying the neighborhood. One of our big initiatives is around developing pollinator corridors. So pollinator corridors are areas that protect habitats for bees and other pollinator species. They make the neighborhood a little bit more beautiful, and they also improve street safety. So we've got a pollinator corridor along Northeast Multnomah, which separates out the bike lanes, that was developed in collaboration with a number of partner organizations. And just this morning, we had a pollinator planting event. So go out on Northeast Multnomah this week. So I was, so you can see the beautiful new native plants that are built there. So that's one of our initiatives. On the next slide, you will see some photos from some of the park cleanups that we do. So we do a lot of work in Peace Memorial Park, which is over kind of between the convention, back of the convention center and the East Bank Esplanade. We have made a lot of progress in the last year on prep work for redesigning the park and are working through bureaucracy to make the project come to life right now. But in the meantime, we do regular cleanups at Peace Memorial Park. We're actually hosting one on Saturday morning. So if you're interested in coming help us beautify our neighborhood, we would love to see you there. We also have a couple of park cleanups scheduled for Earth Week. We're partnering with both Pacific Power and Genentech to do cleanups at Holiday Park and also at Peace Memorial Park. And then we've got some fun activities planned over Memorial Day weekend. So mark your calendars for that. Next slide, please. We pulled a couple of stats. So since the last open house in March, we have had almost 600 volunteer hours doing community cleanups and picked up over 8,000 pounds of trash, which is a lot. We also worked with Ground Score Association, which was mentioned earlier, for one cleanup effort, and their folks collected over 1,000 pounds of trash last May. So really doing our part to try to again create this sense of place and beauty and cleanliness in our neighborhood. So next slide. So in terms of, thank you, and Joshua, our fabulous outreach manager, put the info about Saturday's cleanup in the chat. So in terms of our program area around residential resilience, this one is really about making Lloyd better by developing resilience for community, making sure neighbors know neighbors, and we all kind of have this sense of community and resilience here in Lloyd. So emergency preparedness is a high priority for us this year and next year. We'll be doing a lot of partnerships both with residences and employees in the neighborhood to develop emergency strategies to respond to disasters. And on the next slide, we've also been working really closely with some community leaders on developing a memorial site at the site where a young Black man named Keaton Otis was killed by police in 2010. It's near the corner of Northeast 6th and Halsey. So there are plans, you can see here on the screen, some of the plans for a virtual memorial at the site, but we're working closely with partners and continuing plans on that. On the next slide, our third program area is on a path to decarbonization. So this is really about making Lloyd better by focusing on energy. So programs around energy efficiency, waste reduction. Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a tracking and reporting energy performance platform. And on the screen here, you can see the 2019-2020 analysis that shows Lloyd data compared with City of Portland data as well. So this is something we work a lot with. And then on the next slide, we've got some photos of LAMP, which is our LED Advantage member program, all about LED retrofit installation, which is helpful for things like energy reduction, cost savings, and has, of course, community and social benefits as well. A portion of all of the proceeds from LAMP goes to local nonprofits like Central City Concern. And on the next slide, you will see some LAMP statistics. So again, 80 tons of CO2 saved annually, over $16,000 saved. So it's really a great program. And we'll also have more information if you're interested in that. We're also working on a big climate resiliency study for the district as well. So more on that soon. So on the next slide, I will talk super briefly about a big initiative that we're nearing the final stages of, which is an EcoDistrict certification process so that Lloyd can be a nationally recognized eco-district. That's all about, as the slide says, having this sustainable urban development framework, really with a focus on equity, resilience, and climate preparedness. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit about the kind of guiding principles of this EcoDistrict protocol. In order to be certified, we have gone through a multi-year kind of stakeholder engagement and intake idea generation process to, again, decide how we want to really prioritize these imperatives of equity, resilience, and climate protection in Lloyd, what goals we want to set for these 6 priority areas you see on the screen, how we can uplift and support a lot of the great community work already happening. So on the next slide, we've outlined a couple of examples of some of the ways we've engaged feedback in the last number of months in particular. I hope many of you have been involved in either the big public survey we did in the fall, the town hall last month, or some of these other areas as we develop and create this 2030 roadmap for where we collectively want to be in 2030. The next, to sort of put a plug in, we are, as I said, finalizing this 2030 roadmap, and we'll be reaching back out to community partners to sign a declaration of collaboration, which is a non-binding document. It's not a legal document. It just is kind of a statement of support and saying, like, yes, this is something that we want to sign on and collaborate with in this shared vision of the future. So I will share my contact info, and if you want more about that, want to know more, I would love to chat. On the final slide, I've got a couple of upcoming events I wanted to highlight. The cleanup this Saturday, Earth Week cleanups, that Peace Memorial Park event at over Memorial Day weekend. And my email is on the slide if you have any further questions or would like to engage. Thank you all so much. I'm going to kick it over to Keith Jones from the Lloyd Community Association.
Thanks so much, Marta. Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Jones. I am the president of the Lloyd Community Association. I live and work here in Lloyd. I've been here for about 6 years now, and I've been a board member of the LCA for 5. Next slide. Before I jump into LCA stuff, I just want to share a little bit about why I choose to live and work here. There's some special stuff about Lloyd that I'd like to highlight. We have some of the best transportation in the city. I mean, this is probably the only place, this is the only place in the city that has 3 lines of Max tracks going in both directions. The green line, the red line, and the blue line. The yellow line hits us at the down by the river, and then we've got both A and B streetcar lines as well. So getting around is super simple if you live or work here in Lloyd. Next slide. And then the bike network is also just incredible. So Lloyd is part of the Green Loop, which is a 6-mile linear park all the way around the city. That's pedestrian based, and that goes along 7th. So the Earl Blumenauer Bridge is a part of that, and it's scheduled to go up 7th and continue on into Northeast Portland, but also cut across Clackamas and then down across the Broadway Bridge. We also have Northeast Multnomah and Holiday, which are great bike routes to get in and out of Lloyd, and the East Bank Esplanade, which is a great way to, once you get down there, you it's like a beltway and you can jump off to any other part of the city. When I first moved into Lloyd, I had 3 cars to myself. And after living here this long, I have none. So I've gone completely carless, strictly for a number of reasons, but because we have such great bones here in Lloyd when it comes to active transportation. So I just think it's a special place for that reason, and I'm looking forward to having even more with the Earl Blumenauer Bridge coming in. Next slide. So the Lloyd Community Association is made up of both residents and businesses. I am a resident. The vice president is a small business owner. We have members of the Lloyd Mall, Lloyd Center, property owners, and then also other residents and community partners like Go Lloyd and Lloyd EcoDistrict, because we work so closely with all of them. Next slide. Our mission is we're committed to growing economic prosperity and livability by bringing together businesses and residents to keep the Lloyd neighborhood a vibrant community to live, work, and visit. And I can attest that it's been exciting to be on this board because we've done so much, and I can share a little bit of that as we go forward. Next slide. Our core activities are community events, communications, land use representation, public policy representation, livability enhancements, strategic partnerships, and public safety. Next slide. We are a membership based organization. It is voluntary though, and we have different packages depending on the size of organization that you are. It is always free to residents, but for our businesses and nonprofits, we ask for a donation from $500 for the gold package all the way down to $75 for home-based and nonprofits. This is really important because it goes into, marketing, social media, website, and e-newsletter. Advocacy, we are on a number of the City of Portland action tables representing Lloyd every chance that we can get. We're on the weekly Lloyd Problem Solvers meeting with the city that was mentioned earlier, and that's important to make sure that we get a lot of the issues that we face here in Lloyd taken care of as soon as possible. Transportation issues, livability and safety. Travel and tourism is important there, and then we also have Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods regional representation, which I'll talk about later. We do a number of events like National Night Out, mixers, coffee chats, educational luncheons, neighborhood cleanups, and then with Venture Portland, grant funding and marketing training. So your donations through these donations help fund those things. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about the community partners that we have. The Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods is something that we joined 5 years ago. Lloyd, to my knowledge, was the only neighborhood in the city of Portland that was not part of a neighborhood coalition. Coalitions support neighborhood associations through advocacy and community grants and coalition building. And then NECN specifically has a fantastic regional newspaper called Hey Neighbor. So we've been a board member since 2018. I helped sort of shepherd us into that coalition, and then I became the first Lloyd board member for that, and have been there since. Next slide. Another community partner is Venture Portland. Venture Portland specifically supports business districts through grants and trainings and technical assistance, and through staffing. They help us quite a bit with board support, and have been important in that capacity. Next slide. And then also another thing that's special about Lloyd is that we have the Rose Quarter and the Convention Center here, and a number of hotels. Lloyd is really the gateway to travel and tourism for Portland. In addition to all of that too, for many people who hop off the Red Line to and from the airport, this is the first place that they come to visit. So we coordinate with Travel Portland as much as possible to ensure that we put our best foot forward when visitors come to town, so they have a positive impression and introduction to our city. Next slide. So I also like to talk about a few community projects that we've done in the past. This one's been talked about a little bit. We worked with Human Access Project to create the Duckworth Dock. A friend of mine here that lived in Lloyd came to me and said, hey, there's a dock down there that would be great for swimming. We should do something about that. And as I was looking around to figure that out, I came across Willie Levinson, who runs the Human Access Project, and also the Big Float, if you're familiar. And talking to him, he had a great plan. And so we started teaming up to see what we could do. Next slide. And Willie came up with a pretty fantastic idea to turn this into a swimming platform. This is right now, this is what we're hoping to do, but this is a dock down off of the East Bank Esplanade. It was originally a motorized boat dock, which meant that only motorized boats could come to and from this location. I think it was originally built so that people could go to games at the Motor Center. People did some fishing down there, but for the most part, it's not been heavily utilized. But some of the plans that we have right now make this could be a real destination for Lloyd if we can fully develop it. Next slide. So in order to get some attention to it and the advocacy necessary, we worked with Human Access Project over the summer to create a series of splash mobs, as we called them. So there's a little area down there where Willie figured out that you could actually put a band. So we started having music, and then having a number of meetups down there where people got together and swam. Next slide. So it's fully as we mentioned earlier, Mick mentioned earlier, there's some bike racks down there. It is probably the best place, and no joke, in the city of Portland to watch the sunset from the water, apart from being on the water itself. So if you get a chance, head down there and check it out. Next slide. Another community project that was mentioned earlier was Write Your Dream 2. Next slide. For those that don't know, Write Your Dream 2 is located next to the grain silos along the Willamette. It's on this little piece of parcel here circled in red. That is a PBOT parking lot. Next slide. So Write Your Dream 2 is what's called a rest area. It is peer run. And what that means is that it's run by people who are experiencing houselessness. And there are 13 members who live there. In exchange for living there, and they also help to support and run the rest area. They have large communal tents, one for men, one for women, and one for couples, and they can sleep up to 100 people a night. People, and by rest area as well, we mean that people come in, they check in, and they're able to sleep there for 12 hours safely, and then they leave afterwards. Write Your Dream 2 does safety checks. They have a code of conduct. They do their own cleaning patrols. They have public restrooms available and a public trash bin, and they also do on-site storage. This has been a real asset to our community. Next slide. So when this was introduced, I talked to some of the residents here who wanted to make sure that we welcomed this into our neighborhood. And I was able to talk with Wade Lang, who was instrumental in helping me communicate with the business community. And we got together with Right to Dream 2 and had a series of meetings where we talked about issues and then came to a historic, in some ways, good neighbor agreement. In that good neighbor agreement, we didn't just ask for things from Right to Dream 2, we also made some commitments to them. And this has been an important relationship that we established with them. In fact, at one point before the pandemic, they were on our board at LCA as well. So next slide. We've held a number of community events with them. We did a spaghetti welcome when they first were announced here and got some of the residents together with some of the members of Right to Dream 2 so everyone could get to know each other. Working with Lloyd EcoDistrict and Benson High School, we built a number of tiny homes down there for the members to live in and some better structures for the communal tents. And then organizations, small businesses like in Lloyd, like Greenbridge Coffee, did a program where a portion of coffee sales went to Right to Dream 2. And then my friend Kyle and I, who both lived in the Lloyd, decided to collect bottles from all the buildings here and take them by bike and drop them off. And all the proceeds went to Right to Dream 2. All this doesn't sound like a lot, but it only costs $3,500 a month to operate this. And they can sleep, like I said, 100 people a night. This is a bargain. And I just look forward to supporting them more in that going forward. And as Hank mentioned, as a result of this, all of us won a Spirit of Portland Award to recognize this. And from this alone, we got a number of calls from other neighborhood associations that wanted to see how they could get something like this in their neighborhood or things that they could learn from it. So we've become a real model in this, and it's something I'm really proud of. Next. So some upcoming projects, as mentioned also, Earl Blumenauer Bridge is coming soon. Should be early summer, late summer, I'll just say. Next slide. As part of that, just so you know, from a pedestrian and biking perspective, right now, the only way to get over into Central Eastside is to either take bridges on MLK, Grand, or 12th, and all of those experiences are terrible. It's not really great at all. If you try to get across MLK or Grand on a bike, or even as a pedestrian, it's just not nice at all. So this is going to really open up bike and pedestrian traffic between Central Eastside and Northeast Portland, or in a way that's never really been before. And then also seismically, as mentioned too, you know, the bridges on MLK and Grand and 12th won't really make it in the event of a large earthquake like Cascadia. And so the Earl is built to withstand that and wide enough for emergency vehicles. So this is going to be critical in emergency response if needed. Next slide. And as part of that, we're going to do, as soon as we find out what the date is, we're going to do a joint event with Central Eastside to celebrate the grand opening on either side. And on our side, we're hoping, we're working with an artist named Jeremy Nichols to build to create a mural that would welcome people into the Lloyd as they cross over the bridge. Next slide. It's located on a building owned by Metro right now. That's a parking garage, and Metro has donated that that wall. So working with Lloyd EcoDistrict and Go Lloyd, this is moving forward, and we should have something in summer for this. Next slide. And then another upcoming project is working with the University of Oregon on the spring 2022 Urban Design Studio with the School of Architecture over there. I've worked with the professor Nico Larco on on a few design studios in the past, and the students always come up with great ideas when it comes to urban design and planning. And so this is very early on right now, but I'm really excited to be able to take a look at the Lloyd with a fresh set of eyes. And generally, you know, the students come up with some good ideas that we could probably find ways to implement. The other thing I want to mention really quickly is, and this was we just had a meeting about this morning, was that the Rose Festival is having their grand floral parade, and it will be in the Lloyd on June 11th in 2022. So we're really excited about what that looks like. There'll be more announcements to come, but we're looking forward to being a part of that. Next slide. So if you'd like to get involved, you could become a member. We would love that. You could sign up for an event, join a committee, or join the board, or just let us know how we can help you. If you go to our website, there's information on all of that, and there's also a report an issue button that if you have something you'd like us to bring to the city or try to help you out with, it will go to me personally and we'll try to tackle it. So thank you very much. And I'd like to hand it back over to Hank.
Perfect. Thanks, Keith. And thanks to all the presenters. I hope in this last hour, you've gotten a good idea of what we do in Lloyd, what we're accomplishing in Lloyd, and the programs that get it done. So as you all can see, we are a true public-private partnership. We are run by a few dedicated professionals and many, many volunteers. That's you. We know and we live Lloyd every day, and we stand ready to engage with anyone, public, private, whomever, anyone who wants to make Lloyd a better place. I'm honored to be part of Lloyd and humbled by you, the members of this neighborhood, and all the good deeds that you do every day here in Lloyd. Now, you just saw a screen fly by that I don't know if Owen can reload, but there are a lot of names on that list, and that's you guys. For me, it goes way too fast, but that's you. That's the people that are committed to making a difference, a positive difference in Lloyd. So I thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over now to Owen Ronkelly, who I'll take a second here to personally thank for all he's done and the hard work that he does in Lloyd every day. A couple of people have mentioned it, but this guy lives Lloyd, he bleeds Lloyd, and without him, I personally would be lost. So I thank you, Owen, each and every day, and I turn it over to you.
I really appreciate that, Hank. Thank you. Yeah, I've been thinking about trying to install a bed in the office at Lloyd so I can just spend more time. Although this working remote thing has actually been working out okay too. That said, I really appreciate the kind words, but we want to take this quick opportunity. Thanks for hanging in there a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but this is the time we want to hear from you today. We would love to hear your input on what and how we should spend our energies here in Lloyd. We want to hear from you. One, what are the biggest issues facing Lloyd in the central city today? And you can choose up to 3 responses. I'd encourage you to share your responses with us now. They are anonymous, and so feel free to answer honestly. And then we also want to hear what is the most effective way that the Lloyd ESD can spend its available resources going forward. And you can choose up to 2 responses there. I'll give you a quick second to share your thoughts, and then I'll share the results with folks. And then we'll wrap up. What I'd like to encourage folks to do is to we have a follow-up survey that we'll have at the end of the survey. We'll put it in the chat, and we want folks to go in and share additional information with us. Share your email address as a way for us to stay in contact with you. We can tell you about programming and events, partnership opportunities, and so please go ahead and do that. We really appreciate your feedback on these important issues, and we want to be able to be able to fine-tune our programming so that we are being as responsive as we can be to you. Finally, I just want to say a a combined thank you to all of our community partners who have joined us today. And we especially want to thank you, our guests and colleagues, for all the time and interest you have in our neighborhood, in our city, and what goes on here each and every day. So thank you to everyone attending, and we look forward to see you at a future Lloyd event. In the meantime, enjoy the remains of your St. Patrick's Day, and hopefully you get a chance to take in a couple of NCAA basketball games while they're here in town. With that, the 2022 Lloyd Open House is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.